forecast for the week of November 12th, 2023. So it's the week of the new moon. So you know the new moon, right? It's a quiet time of the month. Things draw inwards, endings and beginnings, but soft, subtle. We don't see the moon. It's dark at night. People sleep more during the new moon. It's a quiet time. Not this time around. Not this time around, buddy, because this new moon is opposite. Sometimes I get too much even for myself. This new moon is opposite Uranus. So the energy of the new moon, the implosive, well, it's not implosive, the quiet energy of the new moon becomes implosive because it's opposed by Uranus. And so there's this pop that comes in through it. So what we're looking for is a rapid shift, a rapid change that happens at this new moon. It's in the sign of Scorpio. Now, technically speaking, we would say this is the very end of eclipse season. This is the new moon after the lunar eclipse 2 weeks ago. So now the energy has, on typical times, the energy would have come back down to baseline, and we just go forward from here. But as we approach baseline, this new moon is opposite Uranus, and so we get this burst of energy. It's a little bit hard to, the scorpionic energy wants to pull inward too. So there's a holding on. It's like it's another one of these aspects. I keep saying it. It's like the jack in the box that keeps getting wound up, and then it's going to pop. And in this case, it's almost like you just push the thing down, get the jack back in the box, and then just start winding, and he pops out again. So this is a very active time. Well, what can we do with this? And now that we understand it sort of astrologically, what can we say about this in terms of how it's likely to play out? There's a certain amount of tension that goes with this because it's not an active time, and yet we're called to act. It's a little bit like it's like you're trying to nap and somebody says, "Hey, can you help me out with this thing?" I don't want to do this now. It's you're looking to, or you're fast asleep and the cat comes knocking on the door because he wants food at 2 a.m. That happens a lot. It's that sort of thing, right? We kind of want to rest. Scorpio, we want to recharge. We want to go inward and feel what's coming up. We want to know what the next thing is, but it's a new moon. You can't even know. You just want to go in and rest so that you seed and things will blossom late. And then boom, you got to get up and do stuff. That's where we're like. So a little bit of irritability. Now, the new moon is on Monday. So for your Sunday, Monday, and coming forward from that, we're feeling this not quite so usual new moon energy, the wound up new moon. Well, people are going to be a little irritable, I'll tell you the truth. There's a little bit, Sun is opposite Uranus in and of itself is something that is a very active, there's a lot of potential for seeing things in a new way. I mean, maybe you do want to sleep and it's 2 a.m. and you wake up in the night suddenly. And maybe you have a really brilliant insight. Maybe you really understand something that is important and good and useful, right? You don't want to do it, but maybe there's something good that comes out of it. That's a possibility. Some folks will be a little extra irritable dealing with this energy, let's say Sunday and Monday. By Tuesday, things should have changed enough. Now, we have other stuff going on this week, though, it really indicates strongly that the energy continues, because the week after the new moon it's a sort of slow wake up time. Not so much. First of all, on Wednesday, not first of all, really, but the first thing I'm going to talk about is on Wednesday, Pallas Athene, the truth teller asteroid, who's been out there in Libra for a long time. She's about to head into Scorpio, but before she does, she has to square Pluto. And this is telling the truth to those that are in power. And I would say this is very likely to come out in the realm of the courts. And if you're in the US, you can draw your own conclusions. It could be legislative as well, for that matter. But this is the kind of Pallas Athene in Libra is speaking the truth, going through protocol, doing things, the right way. And Pluto in Capricorn is the power broker that's listening to it and maybe not liking what he hears. So that should be right around midweek. We should get some interesting stuff in the collective. In terms of our personal lives, not so much, but it's worth mentioning anyway. And then the Sun and Mars get together. They're approaching a conjunction. Their actual conjunction is on Saturday, but let's say Friday, Saturday, because it's early on Saturday, and we'll be feeling it through Friday more than anything else. And this is, again, extending the energy, that rocky energy of the new moon. Because before the new moon, on Saturday the 11th, Mars was opposite Uranus. And that's a very volatile aspect. Talked about that last week. It's a very volatile aspect, hard to handle energy. Then we have the new moon opposite Uranus. And then finally, the Sun and Mars catch up together on Friday, and the Sun and Mars together in Scorpio. Maybe they're a little ways away from Uranus by this point in time, but this is a real powerful, again, very volatile sort of energy. I would say that we can feel that vibrating from the new moon or from before all the way out until Friday, Saturday. On their way, the Sun and Mars will trine Neptune. And it's a trine, and so the energy flows. And I'm thinking that this gives a little bit more activity, a little bit more of the sense of activity, but not necessarily what I would call the most realistic sense. I mean, again, if you're using this in a creative way, this is a tremendous creative energy that should be very strong Friday, Thursday, Friday, let's say. Really good opportunity. And if you have something that needs to be done and you know what it is, very good time for action. It's a waxing moon. We're waxing towards the first quarter moon. We've already got a little bit more of a start on the week than on the month, on the lunar cycle, than we would expect to have. And now the Sun and Mars are trine to Neptune. It's sort of like a, maybe we're getting this wrong, but let's go ahead and do it anyway kind of feel to things. A lot of times that works out pretty well. All of this energy, by the way, if you manage to, avoid folks that are in a rotten mood or getting extra irritable or feeling defensive and all that crap, if you manage to avoid all of that, this is a really fun week. There's some nice energy there. Scorpionic, but it's pretty good. Okay. Then for those who are concerned about relationship matters, we have two aspects this week that are worth noting. On Wednesday, Mercury is going to be sextile to Venus. So Mercury has entered Sagittarius, a kind of outgoing, share your thoughts energy. And Venus is in her home sign of Libra, so there's a careful evaluation. It should be very good midweek, let's say Tuesday, Wednesday, great for communicating feelings about relationship, and or maybe it's more communicating your thoughts about your relationship, or suggesting that we have a relationship to have some thoughts about, something like that. Then Friday, Saturday, Mercury gets into a square with the partnership asteroid Juno. Well, Mercury, ready to say whatever comes into his mind, or our minds, ready to take a good idea and run with it, ready to say what I believe is true, is ready to express things rather openly. Juno, on the other hand, Juno in Virgo is looking at the details and saying, And so if you've got something to say and it's good stuff, that's great. If you're spouting some BS because you think it sounds nice, you're likely to get called out on it. This is, if it's not real and you're saying it, sometimes, that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly. So if it's something real, good. If it's something that's a little bit of fake, somebody gives, not that you would do such a thing, you wouldn't do that, but somebody else might do that to you. Somebody else might do that to you. Somebody else might say, this is great. You know what we should do this week? We should do blah, blah. You're not going to do any of that. Don't give me your BS. So very much a sort of call people out for things that are less realistic. Of course, if you don't have any such situation going on, you're in the clear. So to wrap things up, this is a very active week. This is a very active week. The quiet of the new moon, between the Mars-Uranus aspect before it and the opposition of the new moon to Uranus, there's no such thing as the quiet of the new moon. We'd like to be settled, but we're unsettled. We'd like to kind of take it easy, but we're called to act. Mars and the sun trine to Neptune, we can act. Sun and Mars together, we can act. Act wisely, act compassionately, act nicely, play nice. I shouldn't say play nice, it sounds diminutive. Act nicely, but act. Relationship stuff, definitely, you got something to say. This is a good opportunity. But be careful if you're thinking about making up a story, or if anybody else feeds you a story. And then at midweek, that Pluto Pallas Athene asteroid, look and see what happens in the collective. Just watch the news for like 5 minutes, because if anything really worthy of that aspect happens, it'll be the first story, and then after that you can shut it off, or put on Family Feud or a basketball game or something along those lines. All right, I will see you next week.